But the reason why I've started with procrastination is partly because we get multiple day ones and we feel like a failure because we keep restarting and restarting. And actually, for me, that's not a bad thing. It's a very positive thing. So it means you're picking yourself up, dusting yourself down and starting all over again. And actually, you're not putting off change. You're getting on with it. You're fighting the battle. You're carrying on. It's when we put off that change that some of the problems occur, or when we're not really fully committed to the change that we want to go through and we and ah about it and procrastinate and find reasons why we shouldn't do something. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about what procrastination is and how we can deal with it and some of the tools and techniques. I'm moving my camera and so I can see my notes basically, because I know I make notes and everything. Okay, so procrastination is a problem, whether you're moderating, whether you're going alcohol free, whether you're just taking a month off drinking. It can affect us all. It's not unique to us. It's a very natural human trait. And it's not unusual because we're planning to do something difficult. We're planning to do something unusual. We're planning to do something which will involve change and discomfort and going through probably a bit of an emotional time. And in that respect, it's no wonder that we procrastinate, because we're putting off some pretty undesirable things that we know are coming along the way, even though we know that we're going for a bigger, longer term aim that we know will be good for us in the end. So it's no wonder that we can procrastinate an awful lot. And I've been reading a book about procrastination called The Thief of Time, which is philosophical essays about procrastination. And they say that when we fail to achieve our goals, procrastination is often the culprit. In fact, probably about 70% of the time it is the culprit, because even if you've got a longer term goal, you may procrastinate about certain aspects of change, like the bit around planning that makes it more likely that you're to succeed. That bit we procrastinate over because it feels dull and it feels boring. So procrastination is a problem. And part of that is because by making a change, by saying we're going to change our drinking, we are getting rid of or dispensing with or postponing something called immediate gratification. And we love immediate gratification. Every time in the past 5, 10, 15, 20 years, however long it's been, every time we've thought, oh, I want a drink, we've had a drink. Now, that may mean also because every time we've managed to satisfy that request in our head, it's increased the frequency of the times we drink, and that's quite possible. But we've always been able to instantly gratify that need, that emotion, that want. Not surprising really, because we're in a society where it's not difficult to get a hold of alcohol. It's not difficult to find people who will want to have that instant gratification alongside us. It's legal, it's available, and so there seems to be nobody telling us that instantly gratifying that need isn't possible. So what we'll be doing when you're procrastinating is when we're looking at change, we procrastinate because we're putting off that instant gratification that we're so used to doing. And part of unpicking your drinking habits is about understanding that basically every time you've wanted something, you've had it, and that's actually a habit in itself. And now, every time you want something, you're going to have to say no and feel some discomfort. So it's no wonder we put this off, really, because there's lots of things we're not used to dealing with around changing our drinking. So, for example, the other thing that's really weird about alcohol is that we give it magical qualities. You'll know that because if you read the Daily Mail and it tells you that wine can cure cancer and make you thin and all that sort of stuff. We've actually got a lot of myths around alcohol that mean that we can justify us instantly satisfying those cravings. We could tell us that, you know, I've had a stressful day, so I deserve to de-stress, or I'm celebrating, so this is what we do to celebrate, so I will have this. The kids have been a nightmare today, I deserve a treat, I need to let off steam. We put all sorts of magical thinking around alcohol to allow us to justify instantly gratifying that need. And one of the reasons why we then put off making the decision to change our drinking is we'll go, oh, well, I've got a wedding in the summer. Doesn't matter how far away that wedding is, you'll already be thinking about events that will mean that you have to put off changing your drinking. Or you might go, well, it's only a few weeks away from my birthday. After that, I will do it. Or you might go, I know I've got a few stressful weeks coming up at work. I've got... that, you know, it's a particularly difficult time right now, so I will put it off. And the big thing I'll say to you is there is never ever any good time to give up drinking, right? You will always find a reason why you shouldn't. So do it now. Decide on the change that you want to make and do it now, because there will never be a good time. You'll always be able to put it off. You'll always be able to find an excuse. You'll always be able to find an occasion to put off that change. And it's very easy to keep saying that I will start tomorrow and I start tomorrow. The problem with saying that you start tomorrow is that you're putting off the hard work for the future you to do. And the longer you put that off, the harder that becomes. Same with losing weight or giving up smoking or any of those things. What you're basically doing is not starting today, feeling a sense deep down inside that really you should have started and you're a bit of a failure, makes it even harder to pick it up again in a future day, and then that spirals and rolls, and you're always putting off the task for the future you, and each time you put off that task you're making it harder for yourself. Which is why I'm always actually very proud when those people pick up again and say, I'm on day one again. Not that I'm going to, you know, pander and excuse you and forgive you, and provide you some sort of forgiveness for having fallen off the wagon. But definitely, whatever happens, you can't unpick what you've done. Being able to pick yourself back up again and say, I'm starting again now, I'm not putting it off, I'm fighting this battle is really important. And actually, of course, hangovers also make procrastination really easy because you've got no energy to do anything. So again, you know, if you find yourself in a pattern of hangover drinking, and never creating at least the first day for you to take on this challenge with a clear head, then again, you begin to procrastinate through hangover. That's even worse, because that's like procrastinating and feeling shit all at the same time. There's nothing like, you know, overdoing it. So stop putting it off for the future you. The change you want to make, you need to make now. So how do we procrastinate? Okay, well, we procrastinate by doing the less important things. So often, if you think about work, you'll do things like empty your inbox. I've been doing a lot of emptying my inbox the last couple of weeks. I've been procrastinating around work stuff, feeling a little bit lacking in focus. So we feel a sense of achievement because we've emptied our inbox, but we've never actually done any work. But how does that relate to drinking? Well, I think what happens with procrastinating drinking is that we find excuses that then dilute our overall goals. So what will happen is you'll say on Monday, right, that's it, I'm not drinking at all this week. And then you begin to find excuses to dilute that goal. Well, you know, if I can do a week, then we'll see what it's like at the end. Or I'm going to moderate for, you know, one day, I'm only going to drink one day of the week. And then you start to find an excuse, apart from on Friday when it's Jen's birthday as well, because I don't want that to get in the way of the one day that I've put aside for my personal drinking. I will do it then. And then what happens is you begin to shift through procrastination and discomfort the goals that you set yourself, particularly if they were really fuzzy to begin with, by just saying, oh, I'll see if I can do a week, particularly if they're really fuzzy. It's actually a form of procrastination in itself. And what you begin to do is dilute the amazing enthusiasm you have at the beginning to say, right, now's the time, through a bit of laziness, a bit of discomfort, a bit of feeling that this is hard, a bit of the fact that change is just difficult. And in doing so, you dilute your commitment, because you're continually eroding your commitment to your goal, and over time it becomes fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier, and then it's no wonder that you get to a point where you go, shit, I thought I was only drinking once a week, or I was going alcohol free, and now I seem to have drunk every day of the last week. What's happened? Well, that's not a surprise, because what you've done is you've just opened up the doors to you've eroded away your commitment, and you've opened up the doors to drinking again, because you've managed to find different ways to procrastinate around taking action and doing the hard stuff. So your vagueness and lack of real commitment are a form of procrastination, and they're partly fueled by the fear of failure and the discomfort of delaying that gratification that I talked about at the beginning. Procrastination actually does form a really interesting tool in our lives, because what it does is it stops you feeling discomfort. It stops you doing things where you might fail. It stops us doing things where we might have to deal with our emotions in a different way. And if you think about it, changing alcohol is all of those. It's discomfort. It's denying ourselves something that we might have previously enjoyed. It's requiring us to actually feel emotions. And so procrastination basically delays all of that. And I guess it's a bit of a self-defense mechanism. So you need to be able to recognize it for what it is, to then be able to move to the next stage and go, right, all I'm doing is finding excuses. All I'm doing is putting off the hard work. All I'm doing is not wanting to go with the rules that I know work for everyone else and will probably work for me, because I like to think that I'm a special snowflake, and I'm putting it off. This is what's happening. This is natural, but now you need to move beyond procrastination into action. And one of the things that I have learnt most of all from Club Soda is, if one of the reasons why you procrastinate is because of your fear of failure, then what I will tell you is unless you feel failure in this goal, in your change relationship with alcohol, you won't actually learn very much. Failure is one of our key learning tools, because you will, each time something doesn't quite go to plan, each time you haven't stuck to something, you will plan better next time. Every time you pick yourself up again after a really bad night, you will have learned something about how to get back on and get back on to your goal. Every time that you feel like you have a really bad day, even though you haven't drunk before, and you feel ill, you'll realise that's because people have bad days, sometimes down days, sometimes tired days, sometimes ill days, sometimes, and that's not, that's not progress. That's just what normal life is like, and that's not a reason for you to go, oh, well, sod it, I feel crap today, I'm going to drink some wine, right? So, failure, feeling a bit meh, feeling happy sometimes, all of those things are a really important part of changing your drinking. And so don't see procrastination and use procrastination as a way for you not to feel those things, because unless you feel them, you're not going to succeed. And more importantly, unless you feel them, then you're not going to be able to sustain your goal, because what you would have done is learn very little. If it's so easy for you to just change your drinking and without any issues and any problems, then it probably means that you've not had as big a problem as nearly everyone in Club Soda. But if you've had some ups and downs, if you've tried to change your drinking, if through failure you've learnt what your triggers are, you've learnt who the people are that really annoy you, you've learnt the situations that are bad for you, you've learnt the tools that you've put in place that really work when you're feeling under stress, then that's sustainable change. That's change that's going to take you into the long term. So do not fear failure. Do not let it make you procrastinate. Don't let it put off this task, this goal setting for the future you to do. This is all for you to do now. The other thing is procrastination can actually add to your drinking triggers. because procrastination in itself can make you stressed, anxious, regretful, unhappy, as well as embarrassed, guilty, and ashamed. Because we know we're continually making excuses to ourselves. We know we're continually putting it off. And so in itself, it actually probably makes things worse. It probably doesn't help your positive frame of mind that you're in when you're tackling a challenge head on with a positive frame of mind. So recognize procrastination if it begins to, percolate in your mind, and then go, right, that's procrastination. That's what it's doing to me. It's not only stopping me achieving my goals, but it's probably making me a bit miserable at the same time, making it even harder for me to achieve my goals. So recognize that procrastination is a pain and it's not helpful, right? I'm drinking Mate tea. I'm going to be buzzing by the end of this webinar. Okay, so what else did I want to say? You may be an amazing person at work and never procrastinate at work, but it doesn't mean that you can't procrastinate over this, or vice versa. So we don't all procrastinate on everything to do with life, but sometimes when we know that change is going to be hard, we really do. Don't forget that although changing your drinking is hard, there are some real wonderful benefits, not just in terms of health and not waking up the hangover, but the sense of pride that you can feel for getting somewhere in your goals, for having done a long sober streak, or having really nailed moderation and the tasks you need to moderate. So don't underestimate, every time you feel that there might be a failure, there's how you will feel, how proud and how accomplished you'll feel if you manage to achieve your goal. Okay? Now, so we've talked a bit about what procrastination is, how destructive procrastination can be to achieving your goals, how it stops you getting started, how it might be something that's very self-limiting and therefore you need to go beyond it and make sure that it doesn't stop you picking up even after you've gone a big spell drinking again. You can still pick yourself up and move on and ignore procrastination. But it's but understanding that often as human beings we prioritize short-term rewards over longer-term rewards, because it's easier to have something that gives you instant gratification now than to think about that long term, that time in the future where you might be 10 stone, or where you might have given up drinking, or you might have given up smoking, or any of those things. That seems quite far away, and we're always trying to balance that every time we make a decision. It's called specious reward. It's also known a bit as hyperbolic discounting. So, for example, a short-term solution to a stressful day might be to have a drink. It's really easy, it's habitual, you know it works to take the edge off. But longer term, you really do know that your day will be less stressful tomorrow if you don't drink tonight. So the short-term reward, the temporary relieving of that stress with a drink, has much less value to you than the longer-term rewards of not drinking, because you could have a more productive day tomorrow, feel more proud of sticking to your goal, feel less stressed and more happy. So every time that you come up with a decision about, shall I drink tonight or not? I promised myself I wouldn't drink, or I'm feeling stressed, I feel deserve it. You need to say something that actually Harriet says that always sticks in my mind, which is, if you say yes to a drink now, what are you saying no to? And so if you say yes to a drink now, you're saying no to all those longer term benefits, that good day tomorrow, that sense of achievement and pride. That's what you're saying no to. But also what hyperbolic discounting does is it plays into the hands of your internal saboteur. So you can find really easy excuses for the short-term hit. in order to try and justify it, even though you know it doesn't help you achieve your longer term goal. We're continually bargaining with ourselves. So, for example, I know, right, I can improve my health by exercising more and being better with my diet. So, so for the future, I have decided to forego all of those extra treats that I have, all those extra cakes and extra bits and pieces. It's actually a very modest goal, not very ambitious, to be honest. It's small and manageable. But yesterday when I had lunch, I still had a treacle sponge dessert. And I thought, well, it's okay. I've done a walk and it's a work thing. So, you know, I'm doing today, so I deserve it. And I chose the short-term reward over the long-term goal, over the long-term reward. And so I spent a lot of time with a little internal dialogue in my head, going on and on about it, thinking what I should do and discounting and dismissing any thoughts I have of the future reward if I achieve my goal. So I need to pick up again and recognise that for what it is, a form of procrastination, a form of playing to my inner saboteur, a form of hyperbolic discounting that is eroding my willpower. So what my goal didn't really stand up into the heat of the situation. My willpower was really poor yesterday. I managed to not in any way plan properly for that situation. So how do you shore up your willpower when you know that you procrastinate and that you know that you are continually trading off short-term reward for the longer term reward? How do you shore up your willpower? Well, I think we go back to doing the WHOOP that we've talked about before. So WHOOP means wish, outcome, obstacle, and plan. And I still can't believe in this that I still talk hugely about planning as being really important to changing your drinking. But as I go through my own journey and all of your journeys through watching you in Club Soda, I am more and more convinced that the better you plan and the more that you decide that whatever happens, you're going to stick to your plan, the more likely you are to achieve it. But more importantly, that plan has to be about thinking through the potential pitfalls. So it can't just be a plan that says, yeah, I'm going to go swimming every morning next week. That's a plan. And if I can keep to it, it's really good. But actually, my plan needs to be about the pitfall that happens, the obstacle that happens, which is when I wake up feeling really tired and it's raining outside, how am I going to make sure that I go to that swimming pool? What if that happens? What am I going to do? So let me bring that back into a context of WHOOP for you, which is my wish is to go to the swimming pool every morning this week. Didn't go last week, so I was on holiday, and then I extended that by a couple of days. See how that happens. I procrastinated. Oh, well, it's still sort of my holiday week, and I'm busy, and I need to settle back in at home. What a load of bollocks. So my wish is to go to the swimming pool next week, and if I do it next week, I would have done more meters than Janet in the swimming challenge, and I will feel very proud of myself. So what's my biggest obstacles? Well, my biggest obstacles are getting out of bed in the morning and getting out the door. Once I'm out the door, I'm out the door. So in order to deal with that obstacle, I need to have a plan. And so my plan is to get all my clothes out ready and everything ready in the morning so that my pants are packed away. I can't put them on. I have to put that swimming costume on. I'm going to ask Yusi to help me get out of bed early enough in order to make that happen. And I've also put a picture next to my bed of the swimming pool that I swim in with the words, remember how much you love swimming in here tomorrow. And I know what will also make it harder tomorrow, one of my other obstacles, is that it's going to be really sunny tomorrow, and that pool gets a lot busier when it's sunny because it's outdoors, right? And so I have to remind myself that I deserve to be in that pool, that it's my pool too, that I will find space to be in that pool, even if I have to wait a little while, and it will be okay. I deserve to be in that pool, just the way that all the blokes that go in it feel it's their divine right to be in that pool. It's my divine right too. So that plan is a really useful plan. It's full of real practical things that if this happens, if I find it hard to get out of bed, I have got a number of things in place that I need to do. And it's exactly the same around your drinking. If you find that you're procrastinating, finding excuses, and you'll probably know the excuses that you've got in your head that you've been using, or if you find that you've slipped off the wagon and you've had a few days where you've been drinking again, or if because you didn't meet your moderation goals, you started drinking more and more in following days, you'll know what internal dialogue's been going on in your head. This is the learning bit of what's happening for you. You need to say, right, restate your wish, make it strong, make it specific, no wishy-washy like, oh, I won't have desserts if I go out. Real clear, I will only do A, B and C. I will only drink 4 days. No, wait a minute. I will not drink 4 days this week. I will only drink when I go out once a week. I won't drink now for a month. Whatever that goal is, try and make it as specific, as strong as you can. And then think about, even take some time to have a little, daydream about how you will feel if you achieve that. What will you tell the group? How will you feel in yourself? What non-alcoholic reward will you give yourself if you achieve it? How will you feel? What will you feel? What will you think? What will you hear? Then think through the obstacles. And you would have learned some of those by now because, you've been through this before, most likely. And so you can begin to really write down those obstacles. We've probably tried many, many, many times to moderate. The obstacles are probably not a big surprise to us, but it is amazing when you write them down. Because once you've written them down, you can begin to see what things you need to put in place to make that happen. And the number one thing is you need to stop procrastinating and just get on with it, because there's never a perfect day to give up drinking, and there's never a good time, and there's never a better time than tomorrow. So really think about how you plan that. And if you have if you're on the group at the minute and you've got a really fuzzy goal, you're not really where you are at the minute, you've been through a bit of a this and a bit of a that, and now you're not quite sure where you are, then come on the group and tell us what your wish and your outcome is. Really think through those excuses that you give yourselves, those obstacles that come in your way. You're also less likely to procrastinate if you have a bit of healthy pressure by being accountable to people. So sharing on the group is no bad thing. Sharing with other people in your life is good too. And then stay in the day. You are less likely to procrastinate over a small, manageable, and achievable task. So if nothing else, remember to stay in the day and focus on just being alcohol-free today. And that way, you will get through more and more days and have less day ones. So, Kath, I want you to really go out there and use a whoop. So, think through your bigger wish, outcome, obstacle plan and come and tell us. But don't forget, you can use whoop even for planning what it is that you do on a Monday night, or planning what it is you do just for the day, or planning for a particular situation you think will be a bit scary or hairy or knock you off track. You can use a whoop for all of that. So go and stop procrastinate and start planning and get out there. And remember what Harriet says, which is, remember, if you have a drink, if you say yes to a drink, what are you saying no to? And what you're saying no to is that person you're going to feel, that positive, amazing you that you'll feel when you've got to achieving your goal. Cool, everyone. I hope that was useful. Sorry to be the long way up today, particularly for the purposes that I want it for YouTube. This will be on YouTube later. I told you all about events earlier on the group, but do look at the events tab. Do look at our events page on Join Club Soda. There's lots of them coming up now, and we don't know where you all live, so we can't tailor messages for you to tell you what's going on near you. But loads of members are setting stuff up, and it would be really great if you could join them. Brilliant. Thanks, guys.